the smell of fresh-cut fairway, a $35 green fee including cart, a sleeve of Pro V1s for $18. Your grandfather's bag was 3 clubs lighter, and the scorecard didn't need a calculator to tally up the day. That's the memory most golfers over 60 carry, a sport that once felt like a reward, not a calculation. Now, pull your most recent receipt, a $95 green fee, $54 for a dozen balls you lost 3 of before the turn. And then, on the pro shop floor, the fitting bay, where a smiling associate hands you a driver with a $600 price tag and promises 3 to 5 more yards from age-adjusted swing speed. You sign, you swing. The scorecard looks the same. This gap between what you paid and what you got isn't random. It's engineered. Over the next few minutes, we're going to walk through 4 specific data points from independent testers and 1 contract clause hidden in the fine print of a major fitting chain that together explain why 80% of golfers over 60 leave the fitting bay with the wrong club. And more importantly, how you can walk back in and walk out with the right one. The setup begins with a quiet contradiction. Golf equipment manufacturers spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year marketing the senior shaft, the lighter, more flexible, higher launching club designed for slower swing speeds. Every major brand has one. Callaway has the Maverick Max. TaylorMade has the Stealth HD. Ping has the G425 Senior Flex. The promise is elegant. Match the club to the declining swing speed that naturally comes with age, and you gain distance and accuracy. The data tells a different story. In 2022, independent club testers. MyGolfSpy ran a blind test across 12 senior flex drivers against standard stiff drivers on a launch monitor, using 60 golfers aged 58 to 72. The result? Average distance gain from the senior flex shaft was 3 yards. Average dispersion, side-to-side miss, increased by 11% versus standard stiff. 3 yards farther, with an 11% wider miss. That's not an upgrade. That's a trade you didn't agree to. Now consider the psychology. The senior flex is marketed as age-adjusted. That label does something subtle. It frames your swing, your decades of practice, your hard-won consistency as a deficit that needs compensation. You aren't buying a better club. You're buying a patch for a problem the industry invented, and the patch costs $600. If that number, 3 yards farther, 11% wider, caught you off guard, you're not alone. Subscribe to the channel if you want to keep seeing the receipts behind the industry's promises, so you never walk into a fitting bay without the full picture again. In the comments, type Senior Flex Trade if this mismatch between marketing and measurement is something you've experienced firsthand. But the market isn't uniform. One major retailer, let's call it Clubco, has a fitting contract that explicitly ties commission structures to the price of the shaft upgrade, not the driver. If you buy the standard driver at $500, the fitter earns $15. If you buy the same driver with a 50-gram senior flex shaft at a $100 upcharge, the fitter earns $30. The split is on page 4 of the contract, buried in 8-point font between store credit policy and return window. If you've ever stood in a fitting bay, felt the fitter's hand guide your grip, heard the murmured reassurance that you might need a softer flex at your age, and then signed for a $700 driver, you know that quiet pinch in your chest when the hope wore off after the first swing. You told yourself it was the right call. The industry counted on that. Now let's escalate the evidence. The National Golf Foundation tracks spending patterns by age bracket. For golfers 60 and above, equipment purchases account for 22% of annual golf expenditure, the highest of any age group. The same group also has the highest rate of self-reported dissatisfaction with equipment purchases at 40%. 4 in 10 seniors who drop $600 on a driver say they're not satisfied with the performance after 6 months. That's not an industry that's meeting needs. That's an industry that's converting confusion into revenue. The mechanism here is not malicious intent. It's structural misalignment. The fitting bay is not designed to optimize your swing. It's designed to maximize the average transaction value. The average golfer over 60 has a slower swing speed than a 30-year-old, but also has higher disposable income, greater patience for a lengthy fitting process, and lower likelihood to return a club after purchase. These three factors make the older golfer the highest margin customer in the pro shop. The fitting bay is engineered to capture that margin. Let's look at the specific contract clause. Clubco's fitting agreement, version 7.3, dated January 2023, includes a section titled Incentive Alignment Custom Orders. It states, and I'm summarizing the legalese, that the fitter receives a commission on the total price of the custom order, including any shaft or grip upgrade, minus the cost of goods sold. The cost of a standard driver shaft is approximately $12 to the retailer. The cost of a premium senior flex shaft varies by brand but averages $45. The $33 difference in cost of goods is more than offset by a $120 retail upcharge. The fitter's commission on that $120 is $24. On the standard $500 driver, the fitter's commission is $15. That single clause means the fitter earns 60% more by selling you the upgrade, even if the upgrade doesn't improve your game. When you see the raw math like that, a 60% commission bump for a shaft that widens your miss, it changes how you hear the fitter's next sentence.
As you can see, the commission
Subscribe if you want to keep unpacking these hidden incentives across every level of the golf industry, because this is only one clause in one contract. Drop the word Clubco in the comments if you've ever wondered whether your last fitting was built for you or for the fitter's paycheck. Now, here's where the data gets specific. Golf Digest's 2023 equipment test, which uses robot swings at fixed swing speeds, measured the standard driver at 88 mph swing speed and the senior flex driver at 88 mph, same head, different shaft, across 60 test shots. The standard driver produced an average carry of 219 yards with a dispersion of 22 yards. The senior flex produced 221 yards with a dispersion of 27 yards. The difference was 2 yards longer, but 5 yards wider. That's the trade. The industry wants you to focus on the 2-yard gain. The data shows the 5-yard spread matters more. Now, consider the self-recognition moment that most golfers over 60 never pause to articulate. You've been to the fitting bay, you've heard the pitch. You know the feeling of walking out with a $700 driver, telling yourself it's the smart investment you deserve. But then, 6 weeks in, after the first time you hit a drive that ended up in a fairway bunker you never used to reach, you start to wonder. You don't say it out loud. You don't complain. You just stop using that driver as much. You start reaching for the old one, the one in the back of the trunk, the one that felt like your club. The industry counted on your silence. If that moment of silent recognition, reaching past the new driver for the old one, feels familiar, there's a way to break the pattern. Subscribe, and you'll get the full blueprint for navigating every purchase decision on this channel. In the comments, type old driver if you've ever quietly demoted a club you paid too much for. Now, let's pull back the curtain on the system. The senior fitting trap is not a single deception. It's a layered architecture of incentives, data gaps, and psychological triggers. The first layer is commission misalignment, which we covered. The second layer is the data gap. The launch monitor in the fitting bay is calibrated to your swing in a controlled environment, not a 15 mf crosswind on a damp Tuesday. The 6 shots you hit in the bay tell the fitter what they want them to tell, that you need a more forgiving club. The data says something else. The third layer is the psychological anchor. When the fitter says the average senior golfer gains 8 to 10 yards, that number sticks in your mind. You don't fact-check it. You don't ask to see the study. You trust they win. But here's the common-sense truth that ties all of this together. The driver that works best for you is not the one with the most forgiving shaft. It's the one that produces the tightest dispersion at your actual swing speed, measured on a real course over 100 swings, not 6 shots in a climate-controlled bay. The empirical evidence from the 2022 MyGolfSpy test and the 2023 Golf Digest test converges. For swing speeds below 85 mph, which covers the majority of male golfers 60 and older, The standard flex shaft outperforms the senior flex shaft on dispersion by a margin that is statistically significant. 11% tighter in the MyGolfSpy test, 18% in the Golf Digest test. The difference in distance is negligible. Now, here's the inversion that flips the entire frame. The club you should be asking for is not the senior flex driver. It's the standard flex driver, with a half-inch shorter shaft and a heavier swing weight. The shorter shaft increases control, tighter dispersion, without sacrificing distance. The heavier swing weight helps you feel the club head through the swing, which improves tempo. And the standard flex preserves the launch characteristics you've built over decades. The irony is that this combination is cheaper than the senior flex upgrade. A standard driver with a custom length adjustment typically costs less than $500. The senior flex upgrade with a $100 upcharge ends up at $600 or more. You pay more for a club that performs worse. If you've ever felt that quiet resignation at the end of a season, looking at a bag full of clubs you bought on different days, from different fitters, each one promising the answer, you know what it's like to feel like the system was designed to extract, not to serve. The evidence now lays that feeling bare. The fitting bay is a profit center. The senior flex is a psychological product. The contract clause is the engine. But here's where the data offers a path forward. The MyGolfSpy test also measured a subset of golfers who bought the standard flex driver against those who bought the senior flex. The standard flex buyers reported an 18% higher satisfaction rate after 1 year. They reported playing more rounds per month, on average 1.6 extra rounds. And they reported spending 22% less on subsequent equipment in the following season. The standard flex driver didn't just perform better, it changed their relationship with the game. They stopped feeling like they were fighting against their equipment. They started playing. If this resonates with you, there's a lot more where this came from. Link in the description. Subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown of where the golf industry's hidden margins really live. In the comments, write standard flex if you're ready to take the shorter, heavier, cheaper path back to enjoying your game. Now, let me give you the concrete blueprint. 3 steps to break the trap. First, walk into the fitting bay with your current driver. Don't let them start with a fresh club. Ask them to measure the dispersion on your current club at your current swing speed. Write that number down. That's your baseline. Second, ask them to test 2 clubs, a standard flex driver with a half-inch shorter shaft and a senior flex driver. Do not reveal which is which. Hit 5 balls with each. Compare the maximum dispersion, not the average, not the best shot. The maximum, the one that shows you the worst outcome. That's the real test. Third, if the senior flex is wider by more than 3 yards, reject it, no matter what the fitter says. The evidence is now yours. The $600 driver you almost bought was never the answer. The $480 standard driver with a shorter shaft was. And the most expensive thing you can do is believe otherwise, because the sport you love deserves to feel like a reward, not a receipt. Now, the closure. Picture the fitting bay again, but this time, you're the one holding the launch monitor report. The smell of the cleaning solvent on the counter. The sound of the club head meeting the ball on the mat, a solid thwack that feels right. Your hands steady. The fitter silent. And on the screen, a single number. 219 yards, dispersion 22 yards on your current club. Then another number, 221 yards, dispersion 27 yards on the upgrade. It's your hand that makes the decision. You slide the standard flex driver back into the bag, thank the fitter, and walk toward the first tee. The fee you paid was $480. The club you chose was the one that matched your swing.